Hi, everybody. Michael P. Spradlin here, and I'm back again today with Chapter 7 of The Enemy Above. And we will continue on with the story. Just a reminder, check the hashtag authors take action. Search that on any of your social media platforms, and you'll find lots of authors out there reading, having all kinds of book discussions, book-centered activities. So that's a really great thing. Also, as a daily reminder, please be safe, please stay home, please follow the guidelines, please flatten the curve, and watch out for each other. Let's remember to be kind, and we will see this through. So here we are today with Chapter 7 of The Enemy Above. After the first few days in the cave, a sort of benign boredom set in. At night, the men ventured out and returned several times with buckets of water, which were transferred to barrels in the cavern. During the day, a little sunlight crept into the cave's entrance, but Anton noticed that it didn't really penetrate the darkness or the gloom. Everyone tried to keep busy, but there wasn't much they could do without risking discovery. The children couldn't play loud games. The woman cooked only during the day, so no passerby would notice the light of the stove. Anton and Daniel kept watch each night, but they didn't see anything suspicious. Yet Anton knew the Germans had overrun the countryside. Patrols were everywhere, Dmitri said. He and Sergei had gone to the river to gather water and had nearly been caught twice. But Anton and Daniel never saw anyone near the entrance to the cave. On the fourth day, Dmitri called them to his side. "I have a mission for the two of you," he said. Anton grew excited but tried not to show it. How may we help, Uncle?" he asked. "Our nightly excursions are becoming more dangerous. Last night we were nearly captured yet again. A squad of Gestapo followed us, but we lost them in the woods. We led them away from the cave, so it took us twice as long to return. We had to dump out the water we were carrying so we could travel faster." He stared solemnly at each boy. "The danger is becoming too grave for us, so tonight, while we were out, I want the two of you to explore the cave. Elsa and some of the other women will keep watch." "What are we looking for?" Daniel asked. "A good question, Daniel," Dmitri said, placing his hand on the boy's shoulders. "Two things," Dmitri said. "The first is to find out if any of the cave's passageways lead to an underground spring. If we can find a water source in the cave, we will not have to venture out each night. Second, look for another way out of this cave. We need an escape hatch. If we are discovered, if the Gestapo should come here, we must have a way to flee." He handed a flashlight and a canteen to Anton and a small bag of bread and fruit to Daniel. "I thought you said the passageways were full of twists and turns. How will we keep from becoming lost?" Dmitri handed him a rock. It felt soft and chalky in his hands. "Use the rock to mark your way. This limestone will leave a visible line on the rock like chalk. Draw an arrow every 50 steps. If you become lost, you will follow them back to the main cavern. Any questions?" Anton and Daniel shook their heads, understanding what was required of them. "We'll go now. No time like the present." "Good. Be careful. Don't take any unnecessary chances. Don't forget that the cave can be dangerous." Anton flicked on the flashlight and Dmitri checked his pocket watch. "Go as far as you can in 1 hour, then turn back. If you do not return in 2 hours, someone will come looking for you." Dmitri placed the watch in Anton's hand and left them returning to the group warming themselves by the stove. "Shall we?" Anton said. "I guess," Daniel said. "I do not like the dark. I would rather we were hiding in the treetops than in these underground caves." Anton knew that Daniel was still worried about his mother and sister. He didn't want his new friend to have anything else to fret over. "It will be fine. We're safe here," Anton said. "We are not safe anywhere," Daniel muttered as they entered one of the passageways. Anton had no answer for that. A few meters down the path, the ceiling got lower, and they had to hunch over to continue. But after another 50 meters, the cave widened again, and they could stand up straight. So far, the path had not split from the main tunnel, but every 50 steps, they dutifully marked the walls, drawing an arrow pointing toward the main cavern. Anton watched Daniel take cautious steps along the path. It was almost as though Daniel thought that if they could just be silent enough, nothing bad could happen to them. He was nervous, and his breath came in ragged gasps. Anton wanted to help him relax, but couldn't think of a way to do it. Another 75 meters, they came to a fork in the passageway. "Which way?" Anton asked. He shone the light down both paths, but it revealed nothing of promise in either direction. "Let's go to the right, but since we'll have to come back and explore the other direction anyway, it really makes no difference." They headed to the right and followed the passage for several meters, making their way back and keeping track of the time. 25 minutes had passed. As they walked further down the tunnel, Anton observed that the cave was growing damper. "Look," he said, rubbing his fingers over the slick rock walls. "Water. I wonder where it's coming from." It could be water seeping in from the ground above, Daniel said. Perhaps, Anton said, but he was excited at the prospect. It might be a spring, or perhaps they might find an underground creek. Anton stopped at the driest spot he could find and marked the wall with an arrow. A few meters further on, the passage narrowed, and they had to walk single file. Then it narrowed further so that they had to turn sideways to move forward. Perhaps we should turn back, Daniel suggested. I would much prefer it. Turning back would be good, I think. Anton tried not to chuckle at Daniel's discomfort, but it was difficult. And with the walls as wet as they were, Anton thought giving up now would be a mistake. They could be close to a water source that would solve their problems. Why don't I go just a little bit farther? If I don't find anything, we'll head back. Daniel was about to agree when a noise stopped him in his tracks. Do you hear that? Anton said. What is it? Water dripping, I think. It's coming from up ahead. I have to find out for sure. But the passage is too narrow, Daniel said. I think I can make it. I don't think this is a good idea, Anton. Don't worry, it will be fine. You wait here. Keep an eye on the watch. I will try to make it as far as I can. Call out to me in 15 minutes. If I haven't found anything by then, I'll come back. Anton knew Daniel did not approve, but he couldn't let that bother him now. They needed water to live. The ceiling was so low he needed to drop to his hands and knees. He began to crawl, and soon Daniel was out of sight. As Anton scurried along, the sound of water grew to a steady drip. Now both the walls and floors of the cave were covered in moisture, and the water had to be coming from somewhere. Anton pushed ahead, and as the passageway opened back up, he hopped back to his feet, which were soaked. The water was 2 or 3 centimeters deep. Drip, drip, drip. Anton pointed the flashlight upward and saw where the water was coming from. His heart sank. The ceiling above him was a collection of small rocks and boulders held in place by mud and dirt. The water from the recent rains had worked its way into between the rocks and dripped into the cave from above. There was no spring here, no creek. Anton shone the light over the rocks, wondering if their group could collect enough water here to satisfy their needs. Not a chance, he thought. Even if they could manage to get their buckets through the narrow tunnel, they'd never fill them fast enough. It had been raining the past few days, and this runoff from the storms wouldn't last a day. Anton, Daniel's shout startled him. Anton had forgotten all about the time. He could hear how anxious his friend was. It has been 15 minutes. Are you all right? Daniel's voice echoed off the cave walls. Yes, I'm fine, Anton said. I'll be back with you in a moment. But first, he had to do one more thing. Their mission was to find a water source, but they were also supposed to be looking for an exit. He reached up to one of the boulders above him and pushed. At first, nothing happened. But then he heard the sound of rock sliding on rock. The boulder came loose from the ceiling and nearly fell on top of him. With all his strength, Anton pushed it aside. But once one was dislodged, the others came crashing down. Dad! He could not get the words out of his mouth before another large rock fell from the ceiling and slammed into his shoulder, driving him to his knees. And that was just the beginning. Rock after rock pelted every part of his body. He tried to shout in alarm, but the words caught in his throat. His flashlight was knocked from his hand, and it skittered away, leaving him in darkness. This was bad, very bad. Uncle Dmitri would never trust him with responsibility again. The crush of that realization seemed more than Anton could bear. And then a rock the size of a melon grazed the side of his head. He remembered nothing else. And that is the end of Chapter 7, and we'll see you tomorrow with Chapter 8. Everybody take care.